Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast. I'm so glad that you're here with me today because as you may have heard the phrase, you are what you eat. And yeah, of course, there's some truth to that. What we're going to do today is expand upon that a bit and consider what we fuel our bodies with absolutely will impact how we feel, including our energy and our health. But we're going to dig a bit deeper into that today because the reality is this: you are what you consume in more ways just than food. I mean what you feed your mind, what you feed your heart, and what you feed your spirit. These are the conversations that you participate in, the media that you watch, the thoughts that you allow to play over and over in your head. It all affects, it's all connected. Everything you consume have an influence in how it shapes you. It shapes your energy, your mood, your outlook, relationships, and I'm going to unpack all that with you today because when we realize how much influence we actually have over what we're consuming, we also realize how much power we have over who we are becoming. So this episode is going to be about awareness, alignment, and about choice. And I'll be sharing some personal stories, some digestible research, and real tools that you can apply today in your lifestyle on your journey. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast, where we will explore how a simplified practice of fasting can positively influence your entire body, mind, and lifestyle, helping you live a long, healthy, and meaningful life. Hi, I'm Vicky, and I'm your passionate fasting support coach. With fasting as a lifestyle tool, I've shed over 200 pounds and kept it off without any surgery, diet fads, or gimmicks. And I am confident you can also achieve all your goals with this powerful lifestyle tool. If you're ready to tap into history's oldest healing modality for yourself, I encourage you to check out my services at thefastingfocusedlifestyle.com. I appreciate you for joining me on this week's episode, and I look forward to sharing some valuable fasting support with you after this short ad break. Thank you. When I first discovered fasting, I thought it was just about the food, like any other conventional weight loss method that's out there. It's very heavily focused on the obsession, focus, restriction, limitation on our food choices exclusively. But the more I got into it, I realized this giving my digestive system a break and practicing it, I realized that it wasn't only my body that needed a reset. My mind, my heart, and even my spirit were also constantly being fed. Think about it. Every single day, we are bombarded with inputs and notifications, ads, targeted ads, location notifications, endless reels, conversations, gossip, and so much fear-driven headlines. You're probably overwhelmed most of the time, like I am maybe. So if you're not intentional with these things that you consume, you end up consuming all of it without realizing it. And subconsciously, it all can affect you. And just like eating junk food nonstop will make you feel sluggish, consuming junk information and energy does the same thing. A 2020 study in the Journal of Health Psychology found that exposure to negative online content led to higher cortisol levels and the body's stress hormone, right? We know cortisol, and lowered people's ability to self-regulate. So if you've ever noticed how scrolling certain feeds leaves you feeling irritable and just in a bad mood, anxious, unmotivated, and just like in a funk, right? Because believe me, I've been there before too. There's actually a scientific reason for that. I like to think back to a time when I was newly adjusting to solo parenting, especially after becoming a widow. I was constantly consuming this perfect post mom online and like what my aesthetic had to look like, and just maybe not obsessing about it, but just thinking like, oh, what does this look like? You know, how is life supposed to look like? And if you ever heard me say comparison is the thief of joy, like I say that a lot because it's true and I mean it. I didn't even realize how much it was feeding those insecurities. So like we think about what we are curating, like your algorithm, what you're curating. And if it's feeding those insecurities, I want you to take an opportunity to think about that. For me, I was consuming comparison, like I said, and it certainly showed up in how I spoke to myself, how I thought, how I parented, how I carried myself. And if we allow those thoughts, feelings, emotions to ruminate and really root and take hold over our thoughts, emotions, triggers, stressors, everything, that can cause a huge hinder, believe it or not, in your health. So, well, yeah, of course, food matters, but also I want you to think about what's on your phone, on your devices, what you're watching, what's in your ear, what's in your thoughts. Those certainly matter just as much and can absolutely have an effect on your health. So let's go a little bit further deeper here. What is your mental diet right now? You listening right now, what do you feel like your mental diet, I say with finger quotes here, what does it look like? What does it feel like to you? So hypothetically, let's imagine this. If you made a plate of what you fed your brain this past week, maybe some podcasts, TV shows, Netflix, conversations that you had with people that you love being around, people, family, friends. What have you been scrolling? What music have you been listening to? What has your self-talk been like? What would that plate look like? Would it be something that's nourishing, wholesome, nutrient dense? I say, with finger quotes, nutrient dense for the mind. Would it be balanced? Or would it look like fast food, junk, sugar rush with no real substance in a consuming sort of format? Think about that. I personally remember a period of time when I had certain friendships that were like the fast food for my brain and emotions. Those conversations that felt maybe fun in the moment, they can leave you heavy feeling afterwards. And the more I consumed those interactions, the more I started to notice my own thoughts were starting to turn into that like cynical, critical, judgmental, and just holding on to like that negative, lower value kind of assignment for yourself. But the beautiful part is, just like with food and what we're consuming, we can make swaps. We can adjust. You can choose what you are consuming. So in a 2018 study out of the University of Pennsylvania, they found that when participants cut social media use down to about 30 minutes or so, 30 minutes a day or so, or average, their levels of anxiety, depression, and loneliness significantly decreased. That's kind of like a no duh moment, but think about it. Like, do we track? From what I remember seeing in like targeted ads and stuff, there are apps and things that you can do to help monitor the time that you are spending online. And if you find that you're in these moments and times throughout your day where you get caught into like doom scrolling, or like you go and think you're checking something quick online and that quick thing ends up being an hour, 2 hours, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's already this time. Think about this. Just like intermittent fasting helps to reset your body, fasting from negative or excessive mental inputs will help to reset your mind. So thinking about what simple, intentional choice of what to consume can change your entire outlook. So to challenge yourself this week, ask yourself, what does that mental diet look like? What is that mental plate that we previously talked about? What does that look like right now? Am I feeding my mind and spirit, heart, body, head to toe, inside out? Am I feeding myself with curiosity, hope, encouragement, love, respect? Or am I feeding my, heart, brain, mind, spirit with fear, with drama, comparison, so on and so forth? Like, what does that look like? You can consciously make those proactive changements and modifications. Please don't feel like they have to be perfect, shiny to the letter, like cold turkey. Go from, if you're used to having guilty pleasure scrolling, believe me, have that time. But it's understanding, what effect does this have on me afterwards? Do you feel inspired and motivated? Or do you feel like, I was just saying, do you feel drained, depleted, irritated even, this is stuff that's going to affect you in the long term. So I'm going to talk a little bit about emotional consumption. After my husband passed away in 2019 and I became a widow, I had this just incredible feeling of grief, more than all the other previous deaths and losses that I experienced. And I feel like I had to let it. I had to be in that moment to allow the feeling that I was feeling, because it's, these life altering things are always going to happen to us at one point or another. If we're not experiencing something right now, life altering, for me, that's a moment of gratitude of like, hey, I may have challenges, but whatever comes along, we're going to attack it with a calm, level-headed approach as best as possible, dissecting and simplifying whenever possible. Because honestly, like, grief is one of these life-altering emotions you can't just bypass. It's part of this human experience that we get to experience. But honestly, there came to a point when I realized in my widow headspace, I had a choice of what I wanted to allow to ruminate and live in my heart and mind. I had seen what other people had done in moments of loss and grief. And I knew in those moments that I had a choice. It was like, I truly remember seeing like this fork in the road precipice sort of thing where I could continue on pushing through, doing what I knew how to carry onward through this loss and life-altering change, or I could do what I had seen, sorry to say it, but my grandmother when my grandfather passed away. And the choices, the way she spoke, the way she lived, and that deliberate choice in her lifestyle to perpetuate and commiserate with herself in the grief and want other people to commiserate with her as well. How negative of a choice that was, not just in that moment, not just, for the rest of her short life, because it was only 10 months after he passed away that she succumbed to that, widow heartbreak as well in her passing. But I feel like if we in those moments identify, yeah, this is hard, this is painful, this is life altering, I don't know what to do, I am incredibly sad. If we allow that to wash over us, paralyze us, we basically are just, you can count on the end. And I don't, it pains me and it like adds a little tinge to my voice because I don't want that for anybody. I didn't want it for my grandmother then. I don't want it for anybody that has experienced this loss or similar loss, or that will experience. Like, this absolutely can wreck you if you let it. And by no means, I don't want anybody to feel like they have to muster up and grit through like I did. But I feel like there's opportunities for reflection in these extremely challenging, hard, painful opportunities. And in those moments, we have an opportunity to see our best self and to like give ourselves like a test, so to speak. And in that moment, I remember thinking, that's not honoring the ones that we've lost, which is so profound. And in those moments, like when they're on their hospice bed and you think like, what is my life going to look like after this is done? Like, if you can't wrap your brain around that in I'm going to continue to take care of myself despite this person, this loved one in my life, potentially passing away in the next minutes, hours, days, weeks, whatever. I feel like we do our future self, our legacy, their memory, a huge disservice if we're choosing to perpetuate in the negativity and the victim mentality and this doom spiral mental thought process that we can very easily allow ourselves to go down to if that's a route we choose. But I feel like sit with those painful emotions, sit with the challenges, sit with the hardship. But the moment you have opportunities of joy to just like come in, if you have people that are around you that are bringing you happiness and providing you with love, compassion, support, respect, yada, 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 lean into that. Lean into that like your life depends on it, because it most likely does. Leaning into those opportunities to be grateful for the things that are in your life, no matter what else is going on outside of your hula hoop or locus of control, right? Even for the tiniest things, no matter how ridiculous or silly, seemingly stupid, whatever, like take happiness and pride and gratitude, ownership in these little small things, especially when you're in these moments and times in your life where it feels like you could just throw in the towel and then say goodbye altogether. I don't want that for anybody. It's okay. Please, like, if you get anything from this episode, like, when our loved ones pass away, the best way to honor their memory is to take care of our health. Like, that's how they live on, is through us. So to me, that is the hugest nod and respect and legacy, and honoring their memory is to keep yourself well so that your story can go on for generations and generations. Like, that is the biggest deal for me. Like, of the folks and people that have come and gone in my life, like, taking care of yourself is the biggest testament nod to their memory. And the way that you can do that, tending to your thoughts. Be compassionate, be patient, be kind with yourself. I feel like when we allow this moments and happiness to come in, you see them ripple. It's not going to be an immediate, like, woo, like miracle pill thought, practice that you're doing for yourself, but just show up. Do little things for yourself that just make you happy, that are just for you. No matter how silly, no matter how weird, goofy, awkward, do them for you. Your future self will thank you for that. Believe me, please. And according to also research too, Harvard researchers have found that when people who practice gratitude, like I talk about journaling, documenting your journey, journaling is going to be extremely beneficial, because that will kick on the happy chemicals in your brain, help promoting sleep, lowering blood pressure, less physical pain. As silly and weird as that is, yeah, there's data to support that. So again, please take inventory of your thoughts, your feelings, what is going on in your life, and how things like what you are allowing to exist and live in your space. And I've talked about this before, like the hula hoop of control, things inside the hula hoop of control. Obviously, you can have a direct influence on to improve, change, remove, simplify. And things that are outside of your control, yes, of course, they're worth paying attention to, but by no means that's not permission to stress yourself out to a level where you're causing yourself physical harm inside, outside, head to toe. Like, that's not going to be serving you in the long term, because you can't directly have an influence on things in the external locus outside of your hula hoop of control. So you shouldn't let it live. Like, if you see, for example, the hurricane that just came through, is coming through rather on the East Coast, it's not hitting anybody directly, but there's going to be effects felt in different parts. And if you doom scroll, if you're seeing flooding and things in an area that is not even close to where you are, and you're letting your brain, oh no, storms, paranoid, freak, like you let your mind spin out of control, untethered, it's going to. Acknowledging, hey, this is hard. This is a really extremely hard, challenging, traumatic situation for some people. I'm thankful that it's not me. Is there a way that you can modify how it has influenced you so that you can get through this feeling and to not let it bother you or stay and live in your heart and mind going forward? That's the challenge. And it's just like a daily tending to, like we've talked before about mental weeds. This is kind of having to do with that, those mental weeds. Think about how you spend your time. What does it look like, right? And I've spoken about this before too. Emotions create habits. So if you find that you are constantly in a bad mood and things just piss you off easily, what can we do to change that? If you're sick and tired of being in a pissy mood all the time, what are ways you can change it? In the most simplest, easy step to do, simplify it. Simplify it, pare down whenever possible. That's been my recipe for success, and there's research to back that up as well. Your emotions create your habits, and that will create your reality. And that can last for the rest of your life, for the best or for the worst. It's up to you. Next thing I want to talk about is your spiritual consumption. This one might be a little bit powerful here. So when I spend time in the blue zone island of Ikaria, Greece, I saw this lived out kind of in a way that I didn't think was possible. So blue zones, right? We've talked about them before, where people live significantly longer than average, but their consumption in the way that they lived their life in their lifestyle obviously is not just centered around food. Their life consumption and the way that they just kind of go around their life, and I've experienced this because Treyon has been living there, grew up on the island, so I have like behind the scenes kind of experience that well, and I'm just always asking questions like, what about this? What about this? I feel like the way of life in general, from sharing meals with neighbors and the way that they handle stressors in everyday life, it's to a different level than what is the normal way of life here in the United States. And I remember coming back the first time and just feeling like I wanted to go slow with everything. And I remember, like, I truly remember getting in because I had my van at that time in Florida, getting in my van with my kids and going to drive and having people like behind me as we're coming up to the intersection in the neighborhood where I lived, and people like beeping at the horn because I was careful, obviously, but I just remember going so slow and being so go with the flow in my behavior, in my actions, and it transformed me in a way that I didn't think was possible. And I feel like this inner recalibration, reassignment of what's really important in life goes to that spiritual level, which I feel like not a lot of people talk about or want to address. That is something that can and does happen, especially when you're utilizing a modality like fasting into your life on whatever level, intermediate, intermittent fasting, or if you're OMAD, whatever level of fasting, you can make it a spiritual experience. And I feel like if you are not making your fasting journey a spiritual experience, you are absolutely missing out. I would highly, highly recommend to think about how you can think about what these components are in your journey that you can be modified or enhanced, fortified with thinking about what the spirituality component of this means to you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be pertaining to religion. Choosing to attend to those thoughts, feelings, emotions. If you are religious and practice prayer, practice meditation, that creative process of making art, making music, if you like to dance, if you like to be creative in any form, that's going to be an action that serves you in this journey, and that's going to be a behavior that continues to add onto your spiritual experience in this. According to Blue Zone's research, people who regularly engage in community spiritual practices, restful traditions, all that creative outlet, when they have that creative outlet, those people, y'all, they live 8 to 10 years longer on average than those that don't. Think about that. Do you have a creative outlet? Do you have some kind of expression and practice? Regular habitual practice doesn't even need to be every day, or maybe it's only for like a few minutes a day that you can go to your finger quotes, quote unquote, happy place, right? What does your happy place look like? We need to allow ourselves to have these times in our life every day, maybe some days longer than others, totally fine. But we have to have this creative expression. This is part of the human experience. We are meant to find our gift and share it with others, and having these opportunities of joy and happiness in our journey to fortify our emotions, our mental state, to bring us to where we're content with our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, to where we withstand triggers, stressors, environmental conditions, news, so on, yada, yada, yada. Like, if we have our inner strength, grit, tenacity, and the way that we think and feel about ourselves is so strong and impenetrable and unaffected by whatever else is going on the outside of our hula hoop of control, you are going to be impenetrable. You are going to be unwavering, like immovable from your goals and things that you have set already in place for yourself, that nobody can knock you off your path, so to speak. What does it look like for you? Think about that. But make it fun. Make it you, make it weird, make it just something that you look forward to each and every day, like that joy, like that childish joy. My hope is that you have that. To start to wrap it up, I want to talk about some practical tips. So now that we've covered all this, let's talk about actionable tips. And I've got 5 of them. So the first step I'm going to give you, audit your intake, your overall intake, like we discussed. If it helps, type it out, write it out, everything that you consume in one day. Don't hold back. Let it all out. Not just junk food, but media, your conversations, your thoughts, feelings, triggers, stressors, emotions. Write it all out. Take inventory. Take that audit, what it looks like. Seeing everything listed all out is going to be super empowering, and it will open your eyes to let you know where those modifications, audits, simplifications, modifications can happen and should happen. And again, progress over perfection. Don't feel like it has to be done in all one swoop, all in one day. Trim a little bit at a day. It's going to be much easier in the long term than just overhauling, right? We don't do the overhauling. We don't do full speed, full bore, right? Little bites at a time. The second tip I'm going to give you is think about how you can fast from negativity in your life. I want you to choose one thing that you can fast from this week. And if it helps, look at that list that you made. Maybe it's something like doom scrolling that many of us are absolutely guilty for that. Maybe it's the toxic news cycle. Maybe it's even a draining conversation pattern. If there's people that you speak to on a regular basis, work, home, wherever, that you feel just drained. They're like energy vampires that just like take your happiness and you're in a great mood before you go to talk to them. And then you're just like, wow. If you find that that's something that's happening from talking to somebody in your life, how can we modify it? What can we change? Third tip I'm going to give you, curate your inputs. And by that, I mean, I want you to think intentionally about what books you choose, what podcasts you listen to, what music you listen to, what people you listen to. Think about what you can curate as your things that provide benefit, that inspire you. Fill your space on all fronts with voices and content that lift you up, that inspire you, that get you excited, that get you curious, that align with, what you believe in, what you feel. It's going to be so much easier and more motivational, more inspirational. It reminds me so much of when I was very early on in my journey, still getting I think it was around the time of Getting Fat Adapted, where I was figuring out what I liked to watch and filling my time. And I just continued to find more and more inspiring, motivational, educational content because I'm very nerdy and I love watching and learning about things whenever possible. And I love seeing these testimonials or experiences that people had on different parts of their journey, or maybe they were doing something similar, or if there was things that I could learn, maybe it didn't have to be like the exact full, head to toe list of what they were doing, but maybe there was little like nuggets of wisdom in what they were sharing and over the overall message that I could think, oh, I can apply some of that to my life, and thereby like causing that ripple effect to continue on and on. Like, what does that look like to you on all fronts? So like this is maybe within that initial list, make scratches and additional notes on the side of what things look like that can be curated for your benefit in the long term. On top of that, number 4, I'm going to encourage you to add some nourishing practices. Just like we talked about before, similar to how you would add nutrient density. That's one of my favorite games whenever I'm cooking. How can we add nutrient density? Just like you would add more vegetables, nutrients, and so on to your plate, think about what practices you can add that feed your mind, your heart, your spirit, so that you can continue to have activities and practices like gratitude, journal writing, meditation, movement, creativity, art, play, prayer, whatever is going to help additionally fortify your journey. Again, small steps. And maybe if you find one thing which leads to another thing, which maybe leads to more friends in that network space, which leads to, you know what I'm saying, right? You find how deep the rabbit hole goes, but it's for the positive. It's for your enrichment, future, health, wellness, mental state, long term, like well beyond just static weight loss results, right? Super powerful. And lastly, tip number 5, this is where you're going to be checking your alignment. You're going to be regularly checking yourself. Is what I'm consuming, again, head to toe, inside out, thoughts, feelings, emotions, food, all that, does it align with the life I want to live and the person I'm becoming? So to relate to this, many of you have heard me say in opportunities where I felt challenged or triggered or maybe emotionally compulsively motivated, driven to break my fast with things I don't want, or, intrusive thoughts, feelings, or whatever, I would literally stop myself in those moments and think, I would look at it, mentally zoom out and think, is future Vicky going to be happy with the decision or action that I take in this very moment right now? And if no, then go to choose the better of the two paths. If I know that this is not a great choice, then I won't do it. If I know I'm just having these craving desire purely based on impulse, purely from stressor, trigger, whatever, then I know, this is the wrong choice. And then immediately think about ways to fix it compassionately, y'all. Like, don't do I should, That's not serving you. That's keeping that negative loop spinning in your brain. It's not going to help your health long term. In those moments, for example, if I'm still in a fast, somebody comes up and is like, "You want some French fries, Vicky?" My inner eating monster is like, "Yeah, French fries, yum, 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 yum." Conscious, aware Vicky is like, "I appreciate that. Yeah, they smell good. They smell fantastic. I bet they taste wonderful too." Many of you have also heard me talk about in detail how you can mentally re-eat foods, especially when you're in your fasting window and trying to avoid the stressor, the trigger that is tempting you to break your fast. Think about how the food smells. Great. Think about what it feels like in your mouth. Chances are you've had it before. Chances are you've smelled whatever this food is before. Imagine and let it, I say with finger quotes again, hypothetically live in your mouth. Like you mentally eat it, right? You mentally take a bite. What does that feel like? Let it get weird. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. You're gonna say, let it, like, put your tongue to the roof of your mouth and really think multi-sensory as much as possible. What does it smell like? Maybe what it feels like in your hands. What it looks like if you can close your eyes safely. Activate as many different senses as possible and remind yourself, that was good. I'm done. Like wiping your hands off metaphorically. That was good. I'm done. And you can mentally like pump the brakes on that craving, out of control vehicle of emotions that you're probably experiencing in those moments. I've done that so many times. There's tons of data and research to support that we can override the system. We can override our mental computer in those moments where we are stressed, triggered, and feeling compulsive towards the foods that, bring us happiness and pleasure and all that stuff. We can override the system. Consciously, we have to make the decisions in that moment. Is future me going to be happy with this choice? No. Then I'm going to decide, and it can be a quick little, okay, I know what it tastes like. I'm good, and then walk away, or take another couple extra moments to really allow yourself to, with respectful internal boundaries, we've talked about this before, to where you acknowledge and identify and call out, yes, I'm being stimulated, mentally triggered, whatever, right now. See it, acknowledge it, but keep that emotional boundary up and staying firm with what guidelines and expectations you've set for future you that you are successfully heading towards with each and every single day, with love, with compassion, patience, and understanding that this is a marathon, not a sprint. So just keep all that in mind, because these small intentional steps that you make each day, please don't think that it has to be perfect. Honestly, the more side steps and learning opportunities, as I like to call them. I'm a business owner too. Like I did paint and sip for a long time. And my employees, I enjoyed when they had learning opportunities. They would call them challenges or things that were, going wrong. Honestly, those are learning opportunities. Learning opportunities. Look for the learning opportunities. This will make a difference in your journey long term for the rest of your life if you allow it, and impact your life in such a transformative way. It'll surpass everything that you thought this experience with fasting was about. It just goes way beyond that. So I'm going to close with this. The day that I realized that my energy and mindset and my health were being shaped by what I consumed, these emotions came up. Conviction, because I saw all the mental junk I kept feeding myself. And empowerment, because I finally realized that I had the ability, my conscious mind, I could make this choice to choose differently, compassionately, lovingly, respectfully, imperfectly, but consistently, day after day. So I want to remind you, listening, you are what you consume. But it's not just what's on your plate, as we've discussed. It's what you feed your mind, what you feed your heart, what you allow, what you surround yourself with. All affects your spirit. So this week, I'm encouraging you to pay attention. And I also encourage you to choose carefully, because life is short and our time is so valuable. Make sure you make the most of the time that you have here. Your health is so important. Please don't shortchange yourself. Please take care of yourself. I want the best in health for every single person that listens to me and reaches out. But the truth is, you have to want it for yourself. Nobody can do this for you. I wish I could do this for everybody, but we wouldn't learn. We wouldn't continue and improve. We wouldn't make these connections. We wouldn't make these very powerful realizations if we don't trudge through the mud ourselves to make these connections and realizations. You have to have that journey to where you can assign that value to have the permanence. I'm going to give every one of you a big virtual hug. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And please always remember, I believe in you, even if you don't. You are deserving of a long, healthy, meaningful life. And I'm absolutely confident that integration of this very powerful lifestyle tool will help get you there. If you need support, please reach out. I have lots of options, including a free 7-day Kickstart guide and a support club. And I'd love to support you on your journey. thefastingfocusedlifestyle.com. And again, I believe in you, even if you don't. Please take care of yourself, and we'll hang out again next time. Bye. The Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast. Copyright 2025. The information given within this podcast is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult your doctor before starting any weight loss method. Thank you.
Everything from clothing to household items are getting more expensive each day. American Giant is about keeping things simple and close to home. They aren't affected by tariffs because their products never leave the U.S. Support American-made, tariff-free clothing with American Giant. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off when you use code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com.